We're going to put together a roasting plan for the same Dominican Republic coffee that I roasted to a beautiful medium light roast in my last video, but we're going to go darker, and I'm going to be doing this on both my drum roaster and an air roaster. I'm going to put together my roasting plan for each of these roasters and execute the plan. The takeaways for this video include how my plan changed based on the roast level for the same green coffee, and understanding how roasting plans vary based on the type of roaster that you have. My goal is a darker roast. I want the bold, but not the char. You might be thinking, hey Mike, this isn't a dark roast. Why not go darker? Based on my experiences with this last roast, the coffee is capable of producing some dark, rich flavors with notes of dark chocolate, nuts, and a deep molasses note that at a solid medium, 15% weight loss even. I don't really need to go dark to get those notes. So, top tip, not all coffee has to be roasted dark to enjoy the dark, rich flavors. Okay, for the drum roasting plan, I'm using the same Mill City 500 gram roaster to roast 400 grams of this Dominican Republic Ramirez coffee. Using a charge temperature of 180 C, which is 356 degrees Fahrenheit, the dry event will occur at about 5 minutes. First crack is planned to take place at about 9 minutes into the roast, and drop will happen with a total roast time of about 11 minutes and at an ending temperature of about 208 C, which is 406.5 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm planning for a medium roast color and, as I'd mentioned, a 15% weight loss. So now the hot air roaster. I'm using a Fresh Roast SR540 to roast 180 grams of the same coffee and plan to reach yellow, the dry end, at about 3 minutes. First crack is going to take place at about 7 minutes, and I'm going to drop the coffee at about 9 minutes at the end of the roast. I'm also aiming for a medium roast color and a 15% weight loss, just the same as the drum roast. The air roast will start at the 2-minute mark of the drum roaster's roast and reach dry at the same time as the drum roaster coffee roasts. So they'll sync close to the same major events of dry yellow, first crack, and then drop at the end of the roast. And this should work because hot air roasters are generally more efficient at penetrating heat into the bean compared to a drum roaster, which relies on the beans touching each other and the hot metal of the drum, along with some air penetrating heat into the same green coffee seed while roasting. This is why we can shave off 2 minutes during the dry phase when the coffee seed has the highest amount of moisture. In both cases, I will be using a cooling tray to cool the coffee quickly, so let's get started. Okay, the drum roaster has been preheating for over 30 minutes, and the roasting environment is stable, as seen here in this shot. Now, let's charge 400 grams of the Dominican Republic Ramirez coffee at my target charge temperature on the plan of 180 C. Okay, well, we've charged the roaster at 2.4 Celsius higher than our plan, but that should be okay. My goal is to reach dry end at 5 minutes. Why did I choose 180 C? I need to ensure that I had enough momentum to hammer throw my roast towards dry end, the peak of the rate of temperature increase or rate of rise, arc, and use enough energy to see the hammer land at about the 11-minute mark. Watch this clip and see how the athlete is spinning around, building up momentum, and then launching the hammer towards its maximum distance. This is what we are doing with our preheat, charge temperature, and power settings as our roast is headed towards dry end, first crack, and the end of the roast. Our rate of rise is literally a picture of this momentum arc as seen in this hammer throw. My charge temperature and momentum on the medium light roast in my previous video was lower and slower at 170 C. For this roast, I have 10 extra degrees of charge temperature giving me more momentum so that I can expect to reach dry end at an earlier event time. From the moment we turn on the Fresh Roast SR540, hot air rated at over 300 degrees Fahrenheit or 149 C is blowing through the bean mass, evenly heating the beans with airflow currently being used. This convective heat allows the beans to roast faster without as much concern for roasting defects like a drum roaster might. Now both roasts are in sync, and together we drive these beans to dry end at about the 5-minute mark. I'm beginning to lower my power setting on the drum as the coffee gets closer to the yellow event. The air roaster is different. I'm choosing to increase my power throughout the roast. I'm also lowering the fan incrementally to increase temperatures in the roaster. Notice the fresh roast temperatures are being displayed, and you'll see how the increase begins to slow down until I lower the fan or increase the power. And then the increase begins to climb, and then it'll wane off. These are steps that you can see because there isn't a high charge hammer throw with this roaster. Instead, we manually generate momentum with control inputs throughout the entire roast. The drum roaster is like a roller coaster ride with the chain at the beginning of the ride pulling up the steepest climb, and then momentum does the rest. But the air roaster is like a roller coaster ride with many chains pulling up most hills on the ride. Okay, so we've hit the dry end event at 5 minutes and we're on track. This is great news. Now we focus on reaching first crack at 9 minutes. I'm managing heat and air inputs for both roasters. The hot metal and beans touching each other provide more inertia to allow me to back off my power a little bit at a time while increasing my air convective heat on the drum roaster. Here you see me lowering my fan in the air roaster because I need to bump temperatures and to lower the loft. When moisture evaporates from the beans on an air roaster especially, they get lighter and the loft goes higher. The beans have turned from that yellow golden brown to a more light milk chocolate color, and since I don't have a bean probe on the air roaster, I'm using my senses to monitor color, sound, sight of the bean loft, and bean color to inform me of my roast progress. This isn't a perfect science, but it should get me really close to my target. All right, first crack is approaching. The drum roaster hit first crack at 8:45. This is 15 seconds earlier than my target of 9 minutes on the plan. The air roaster's target of 7 minutes has just passed, and I'm beginning to hear first crack, so I call first crack at 7:05. 20 seconds later than the drum roast, and 5 seconds past my target on the air roasting plan. So I've got to get creative here. What do I do with my drum roasting plan since I'm 15 seconds early? I can stay on my plan and drop my 11-minute plan, or I can add 15 seconds onto the development because I shortened my browning phase. What do I do? Leave a comment. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I'm going to listen to the pace of first crack. That's one of my solutions. Because it's slow and my temperatures are a bit lower at this point of the roast, I decided that I'm going to extend my roast by 15 seconds. The air roast is really cracking, and looking back, I think I should have bumped the fan up 1 notch from 1 to 2 to slow the temperature increase a little bit. Here we go. The air roast drops at about 9 minutes, and the drum roaster drops at 11 minutes and 21 seconds. I followed the plan except for the slight detour to compensate. Not sure if that was the right choice or not. Let's find out how these look when we compare these two coffees, and then we'll weigh them and then finally put them under the color meter. All right, so here's what we ended up with. Taking a close look at these beans, they look really similar. The drum roast is a little bit lighter in color. 15% weight loss is right on the money with the drum roaster, and the air roaster was 15.2% weight loss. The color meter shows a solid medium at an Agtron of 58.8 for the drum roast, while the air roaster was 54.9. These are both solid medium roasts. Looking at the color, the weight loss, and the actual color meter, it confirms that both of these roasts are solid medium roasts, and they're very, very similar to each other. So ultimately, this is going to come down to the taste. I do expect them to taste differently, but let's get these brewed and then we'll find out. All right, it's been a week for this coffee to rest, and here we are for the taste. of this Dominican Republic Ramirez Yarabacoa coffee from the Coffee Bean Corral. Thank you so much, Coffee Bean Corral, for sending me this coffee to experience it and share those experiences with my audience here at the Virtual Coffee Lab. I really appreciate the collaboration. This has been a fun coffee for me to try at different roast levels. And I mentioned in the beginning the whole idea of not having to roast really dark. And I'm excited. I haven't tasted this coffee yet, but I'm excited to share with you, what I taste. Because honestly, I think, especially with lower density coffees, I don't think you need to go super dark and get into the oils and all of that to get these dark, rich, bold flavors. But we're going to find out. So here is the drum roast of this coffee. And it has a little bit of a sweet aroma, very mild sweet aroma, a kind of a little bit of an earthy aroma, and there is definitely like a spicy kind of hit on the nose. Cinnamon. The cinnamon spice, kind of a fizz on the back of the tongue. It just lingers and is just working its way to the back of the tongue. It's not a bitter coffee. It's definitely a bold coffee. It's got some body to it, but it's not a really heavy or full body coffee. And there is that dark chocolate that is kind of towards it's not a bitter chocolate, but it is like a dark chocolate that I'm experiencing. And then that acidity, if that's what it is, from that cinnamon, is just kind of sticking on the back of the tongue, and it's just starting to kind of fade away. So it's not a clean cup. There is some complexity to it, and this was really enjoyable. This was surprisingly, because I don't normally drink darker type coffees. This isn't dark, but I'm more of the sweet, fruity, high density kind of bean. That's kind of the thing that I really enjoy. But this is really good coffee. Okay, so now the air roaster. The air roaster coffee, now these roasts, we already know that they're not exactly the same. We know that the air roast is a little bit darker. And so the question is, am I going to be able to taste the difference in the color? I think that's really what it comes down to. So it's got a very similar aroma profile. Maybe not as much sweetness. It's very, very minimal sweetness in the first roast. The profiles are similar. What I'm tasting is similar, but I would say that this coffee, I don't have that fizz of the cinnamon spice on my tongue as much. It's just very little bit, if anything. It's definitely a thinner body coffee. Even though it's darker, the caramelization that I think I may have gotten a little bit of through the drum roast, I'm not sure that I got that here with this roast. And I'm trying to understand maybe why. It is darker. I think the chocolate is a little bit more pronounced here in this. It's a little more, maybe on the tinge towards bitter for this coffee compared to the drum roast. And again, it's not the roaster, it's the roaster. Okay, so it's not necessarily the machine or the device that is, oh, well, that's a great machine and this one's no good because this coffee isn't as good or whatever. That's not it at all. It's all about what we do with the roaster. And there were some differences in what happened. You know, one of the things that I love about the Fresh Roast is it's easy to use and it can produce some wonderful coffee. And it has for me. It's very enjoyable. And I know that there are thousands of Fresh Roast users. I wish that the Fresh Roast company would change the design of the roaster two things. First of all, I wish they would change the design of the air movement. So instead of the coffee popping up and down like a trampoline, that it would have kind of a beveled bottom to be able to have the coffee swirl, and that would give a little more consistency in the roast. And the other is the adjustments. I wish they would be a little more finite, so that when you change the air or you change the power, that it is not a noticeable bounce or jump in temperature or drop in temperature either way. But I think it could be a little more finite, and they should do that. I would wish they would do that. So it's a great roaster. I don't think that it's the machine. I think that I did some things in my profile that obviously they're not the same. This is a darker, higher temperature, and that played a role in what happened here. And I think the other thing was in me trying to time this first crack event, I was being a little more gentle with my power on the fresh roast. It kept me on track, but it caused my rate of rise to maybe go a little flat. So whether that had an impact or not, maybe, but I think those are some of the differences in the roasts that I'm noticing. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what I did, the experiences that you saw through this, or maybe your own personal experience of what you've done with a low density coffee, a coffee that does not really have a lot of acidity. It has earthier, kind of nutty notes to it. This definitely has been a learning experience for me, and I plan on digging in a little further, trying to understand what's really happening with an air roast. I'd love to create a roasting environment where they're both the same temperature, and then from there just see how the heat, this convective heat style, how it impacts the beans differently. And I'm going to be using the D-Fluid Omix. This is not only a color meter that I used, but it's also a density meter as well as a moisture meter for me to be able to compare these coffees throughout different aspects of the roast, just to see how they differ. That might help inform me a little more of the differences, so I can maybe have a different approach with an air roast that will kind of mimic an experience from a drum roast. Because that's what a lot of us are doing, is we're taking some of the ideas from what we see in videos or what we read from traditional roasters, and we're trying to apply some of that to air roasting, and sometimes it doesn't work. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. So thanks for joining me today here at the Virtual Coffee Lab. If you like this video, hit the like button, always subscribe. Appreciate you doing that. And I hope you have a great week roasting. We'll see you next time.